The man's name was Ion, a widowed father in his late 30s whose hands were permanently rough from years of hard labor. Life had never been gentle with him, but after his wife passed away suddenly 5 years earlier, it became unbearably heavy. He lived in a cramped rented room on the edge of the city with his young daughter, barely managing to cover rent, school fees, and food by working multiple jobs. Every morning before sunrise, he left his sleeping child behind, whispering silent prayers that he would return home with enough money to keep them afloat for one more day. His world was small, defined by responsibility, exhaustion, and love for the only family he had left. His wife, Lena, had been the light of his life. Gentle, intelligent, and quietly ambitious, she once dreamed of doing something meaningful with her life, something bigger than survival. But illness came suddenly, and poverty left no room for proper treatment. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Ion had buried her with borrowed money and returned to work the next morning because grief did not pay bills. The only thing he kept from her was a faded photograph, folded carefully inside his wallet, edges worn from being touched too often. Years later, fate led him to the gates of a mansion he never imagined he would enter. Ion had taken a temporary job delivering documents for a construction subcontractor, and one address stood out among the rest. The location was a massive estate owned by one of the country's most powerful billionaires, a man whose name was whispered with awe and envy. Ion expected to hand over papers at a gate and leave, but a series of checks and confirmations led him inside, through halls of polished stone and silent luxury that made his heart pound with discomfort. As he waited in a vast living hall, his eyes wandered nervously across priceless paintings, towering windows, and elegant furniture. Then he saw it. Mounted on the wall, illuminated by soft golden light, was a photograph that stopped his breath completely. It was Lena, younger, radiant, wearing the same smile she wore on their wedding day. His knees weakened, his mind spiraled, and for a moment, the world blurred around him. This was not possible. His wife had never been wealthy, never famous, never connected to power or privilege. Yet here she was, displayed in the heart of a billionaire's mansion. Ion's chest tightened with fear and confusion. Memories rushed back, Lena's occasional silences, the way she would sometimes stare out of windows as if remembering a different life, the gentle sadness in her eyes she never explained. He had loved her without questions because love, for him, had always been simple and honest. But standing there, staring at her image in a place like this, he realized how little he truly knew about the woman he had married. When the billionaire finally entered the hall, the air itself seemed to change. He was an older man, dignified, calm, with eyes that carried both authority and sorrow. Ion felt small and invisible, but the image on the wall gave him a courage born of desperation. He could not leave without understanding why his wife's face was honored in a mansion that represented everything they had never had. What followed was not an explosion of anger or accusation, but a slow, heavy unveiling of a truth buried for decades. The billionaire revealed that Lena had once been part of his life long before Ion ever met her. She was not a mistress, nor a secret lover, but the daughter he had lost. Years ago, consumed by ambition and pride, he had abandoned the woman who carried his child, choosing wealth and power over responsibility. Lena grew up in hardship, hidden from his world, carrying a wound she never spoke of. When she finally sought him out as an adult, illness already shadowed her life. By the time he discovered who she truly was, she was gone. The photograph on the wall was not decoration. It was remembrance, regret, a silent apology to a daughter he never held, never protected, never deserved. Ion stood frozen as the weight of the revelation settled over him. The woman he loved was the blood of the man who owned everything, yet she died with nothing. The unfairness of it crushed him, but beneath the pain was a strange sense of connection, a bridge formed by loss. The billionaire looked at Ion not as an employee or a stranger, but as the man who gave his daughter love when he never did. He saw the exhaustion in Ion's eyes, the humility in his posture, and the quiet strength of a father who had survived what wealth could not fix. In that moment, money felt meaningless compared to the years that could never be recovered. From that day on, Ion's life began to change in ways he never expected, but not instantly, and not magically. The billionaire did not throw cash at him or erase his struggles overnight. Instead, he did something deeper. He took responsibility. He ensured Ion's daughter received the education Lena always dreamed of, not as charity, but as family. He gave Ion stable work, dignity, and the chance to breathe without fear of tomorrow. More importantly, he became present, slowly learning how to care, how to show up, how to be human beyond numbers and power. Ion struggled with mixed emotions. Gratitude battled resentment. Healing fought with old wounds. Some nights, he sat alone remembering Lena, wishing she were there to see how the world finally acknowledged her worth. He spoke to her in his thoughts, telling her that their daughter was safe, that her sacrifices were not forgotten, that her story mattered. Time passed, and the mansion that once felt cold and unreachable became a place of quiet reflection. The photograph remained on the wall, but now it felt less like a mystery and more like a reminder that life is fragile, choices echo across generations, and love can exist even in the aftermath of regret. Ion never forgot where he came from. He continued to live simply, teaching his daughter humility, kindness, and resilience. He taught her that wealth does not define a person, but character does. As the years went by, the billionaire's empire continued to grow, but so did something far more important within him. He learned to listen, to care, to give without expecting praise. In honoring Lena through Ion and his child, he found a small measure of peace, though the ache of loss never fully faded. Some regrets cannot be erased, only carried with humility. Just before we reach the end of this story, take a moment to comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your thoughts mean more than you know.